You Owe Me One Universe by Chad Lucas, Chapter 32, Visited by Ghosts, Ezra. By the time we finished rocking out about zombies, I was sweaty and laughing. You're an expert moping coach, I told Brian. This helped a lot. I'm glad. Brian threw an arm around me. We're good, right? We're good could mean a lot of things. Maybe he was talking about our zombie song, but I thought back to the awkwardness after our kiss, the hard months of winter, and all the things we didn't know how to say. None of that had been in the way today. Telling Brian everything had been easy, and it made me realize that my feelings had changed. Maybe I'd always have a little bit of a crush on Brian, but today, he was my best friend who had my back when I felt lousy, and it was exactly what I needed. It was all I needed. I leaned against his shoulder. Yeah, we're good. After Brian left, I checked my phone. I had messages from Ty and Kevin checking in on me, which was sweet. Maddie wrote to thank me again for helping with the talent show, and Caleb texted, "So when are we starting a band? Question mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark." A lot of exclamation marks. I had to laugh at the 7 exclamation points. There was also a message from Victor. You were right about today and last night. I'm sorry. I want to make it right. I thought about responding for 5 seconds, then I put my phone away. If he was serious about making it right, he'd know a text wasn't enough. He didn't try to find me in school on Thursday. I didn't see him until the end of the day, when I spotted him in Mrs. Cleland's classroom. They were alone, having what looked like a serious conversation. I was curious, but it wasn't my business, so I stayed out of it. The next morning in homeroom, I was only half paying attention to the announcements over the intercom when I caught Miss Florman say, "And finally, we have a special announcement from one of our students, Victor McLennan." My neck prickled. "Hey," Victor's voice boomed out of the speaker, and a few kids in homeroom giggled. Someone must have told him to back off the mic because he resumed more softly. I asked Miss Florman if I could have a minute because I need to apologize. Instantly, the giggles turned to whispers. Brian, Ty, and I looked at each other. "I made a big mistake this week," Victor said, "and I hurt someone I really like. I won't embarrass them, but they know who they are." The whispers around us got louder. My face burned, and I dropped my eyes to my desk. "I also want them to know that they're right," Victor said. "I've been caring about the wrong things, but I really do care about you, and I hope you'll give me another chance. If it's not right away, I understand." "Aw," a girl named Sarah said, a row away from me. "That's so romantic. I wonder who he's talking about." Victor kept going. "But I need to say sorry to a lot of people, and it's not enough to say one big sorry over the intercom. So if I was mean to you over the last year and a half, I want to apologize in person. Come see me in Mrs. Cleland's room at lunch today." Suddenly, everyone was talking. Miss Worth held up her hands for quiet, but even she had a shocked expression on her face. "If you think this sounds like a prank, I don't blame you," Victor said. "But I asked permission from Miss Florman, and Mrs. Cleland will be there, so please come if I owe you an apology. That's it. Thanks for listening." Everyone was still buzzing after the bell rang. Ty grinned as we made our way to first period French. "Wow, Victor has it bad for you, Ezra. He's out here trying to make amends like Ebenezer Scrooge. Maybe he was visited by ghosts last night." Brian scowled. "I don't trust him." "So you're not going at lunch?" Ty asked. Brian shrugged. "What do you think, Ezra?" "I don't know what to think." That was the truth. I couldn't decide if I was glad or annoyed that he'd chosen to apologize like this. I guess it was one way to show he wasn't being secretive anymore. Still, I wasn't sure what to make of it all. Kevin caught up with us at the break, and of course he was brimming with news. "I think Victor's serious," he said in a low voice, as if everyone in the hall wasn't talking about the exact same thing. "Dude's looking terrified all morning, but he asked if I was coming. He said he owes me an apology for everything last year." "Maybe you should go," Ty said. "Putting himself out there like that takes guts. You too, Ezra. Doesn't mean you have to give him another chance. Just see how it goes." "Of course I'm going," Kevin said. "I need to know how this plays out. What about you, Brian?" Brian looked down. "I don't know. Maybe." I straightened my glasses. I did tell Victor that if he was trying to do better, he needs to own up to everything he did last year. so I guess I should go and see what happens. But if it doesn't feel right, Brian, you don't have to go. You don't owe him anything." The bell rang before Brian could answer, but the look on his face told me he still wasn't sure. Chapter 33. How to Shed a Dragon Skin. Brian. I didn't want to think about Victor, but I couldn't think about anything else. 7 minutes before lunch, I told Mrs. Wooliver I had to use the bathroom. If anyone else had asked, she'd probably make them wait until lunch, but she'd gone easier on me since I passed out in the hall during her quiz, and I didn't mind milking that guilt. I headed to Mrs. Cleland's room, hoping to catch her before Victor arrived, but he was already there, helping Mrs. Cleland move desks and set up chairs in a circle. Mrs. Cleland must have had a prep period because there was no one else in the room. I hesitated by the door. My gut screamed at me to leave and avoid the whole thing, but I took a breath and stepped inside. "Hi, Brian," Mrs. Cleland said softly. Victor went pale when he saw me, which was a first. Hey, I wasn't sure if you'd come, but I'm glad you did." Now that we were face to face, the wheel of emotion spinning in my mind landed on anger. "I didn't come for your game," I said. "Whatever this is, I know you're only doing it to try to impress Ezra. Quit playing and leave him alone." Victor's face fell, and so did Mrs. Cleland's. "Brian," she said, with caution this time. Suddenly I was angry with her, too, for going along with this, when she knew how awful Victor was to me last year. Maybe I was angry at myself, too, for caring so much. I wanted to be over it, but a ton of memories and feelings bubbled up, and everything came pouring out. "He's just acting to get what he wants," I told Mrs. Cleland. "He's always done this. He smiles and says the right things when teachers are watching, but he's poison." I turned to Victor, my voice rising. "If you actually cared about Ezra, you'd stay away and stop messing with him. He might be the nicest person in this whole school. You don't deserve him, and you know it." Mrs. Cleland gasped. "Brian!" I couldn't look at her. I was already ashamed that I was yelling. I waited for Victor to lose his temper or say something awful to me, but he didn't. He sighed. "You're right. Ezra is incredible, and I don't deserve him, but His eyes drifted past my shoulder, and his face went even paler. Without turning, I knew Ezra had entered the room. Victor's voice dropped to a whisper. "I have to try. I don't know what else to do." Ezra stood beside me. The bell hadn't rung yet, so he must have played his get-out-of-jail-free card with Mrs. Wooliver, too. He probably told her he was checking on me. He put a hand on my shoulder. "You okay?" I nodded. I couldn't stop looking at Victor and the way he was looking at Ezra. One thing I couldn't stand about Victor last year was how he always wore this aggravating smirk like everything was one big joke. It was pretty freaking sweet when Ezra called him out for pretending he was too cool to care. But that cover was gone now. He was staring at Ezra with a lovesick I'd give up a kidney for you glaze in his eyes. Mrs. Cleland took a step toward us. "Brian, Victor came to me wanting to make up for what he did to you and to others. I thought a restorative approach might work, where he talks with the people he's hurt and takes responsibility for his actions. But if that doesn't feel helpful for you, that's completely okay. You don't have to participate." "I don't blame you if you don't believe me," Victor said. "You can just stay and watch if you want, but I really am sorry, Brian." I didn't want to let him off the hook, like he could say a magic word and fix everything. "You weren't sorry last year. You liked making me miserable. Some nights I couldn't sleep because I felt so anxious about dealing with you the next day." Ezra squeezed my shoulder. Victor winced. "You're right. For a long time I wasn't sorry. I told myself it wasn't a big deal, but obviously it was, because you were mad enough to break my nose. And I apologized at Ty's party. That's what got me. Everyone was so glad you stood up to me, and the way you did it." Victor swallowed. "Everyone loves when the good guy beats the bad guy, and it was obvious I was the bad guy. I was poison." "No kidding," I almost snapped back. Before I could decide whether I wanted to go through with this, the bell rang. Instantly, there was a crowd at the door, like kids had sprinted here to grab a seat. They kept coming until half the 8th grade and a handful of 9th graders were squished into Mrs. Cleland's room. Victor was trying to keep cool, but he looked ready to throw up. I couldn't lie, I enjoyed that part. Colby crossed the room and stood with Victor. Ty and Kevin made their way to Ezra and me. When the room was full, Mrs. Cleland signaled for quiet. Before we start, how many people have something they want to address with Victor? Alicia's hand shot up. She fixed Victor with a laser stare. 4 other hands followed, including Kevin's. I kept mine at my side. I still didn't know about this. Mrs. Cleland glanced at me. How many people might have something, but they're feeling unsure about how this is all going to work? 2 more people slowly raised their hands. Ezra looked at me and lifted his hand. I swallowed and raised mine too. Mrs. Cleland surveyed the rest of the group. And how many just came to watch? There was a lot of shuffling and murmuring, and gradually everyone else raised their hands. Right. I appreciate your interest, but my classroom can't hold such a crowd, and this isn't meant to be a spectator sport. So please go enjoy your lunch. More shuffling and grumbling, but Mrs. Cleland could put on a serious teacher stare when she needed to. The crowd thinned. Ty started to leave too. Wait, everyone looked at me, and my face burned. I still didn't love speaking in crowds, but I focused Mrs. Cleland. I'd like Ty to stay for moral support. Mrs. Cleland looked at Victor. He shrugged. That's fair. Colby's here for me, and I did crash your party last year, Ty. Ty scoffed. Please, I'm not mad over that. No one can ruin a Ty Marsman party. Everyone giggled, lightening the mood a little. I want Maddie to stay too for the same reason. Alicia glared at Victor again. He gulped. Okay. Mrs. Cleland ushered us into the circle. There were 14 of us, including Mrs. Cleland, Victor, Colby, Ty, and Maddie. That meant 9 of us were there because Victor had messed with us somehow. Besides Ezra and Alicia, most of the others had been in my homeroom last year. I was Victor's favorite target, but I wasn't his only target. Mrs. Cleland set her hands on her knees. Welcome, everyone. We've never tried anything quite like this before, but I think it could be a good way to resolve conflicts. Thank you for being brave enough to take part, and thank you, Victor, for being willing to take ownership of your behavior. She paused. The circle was dead silent. To do this well, we're going to have a few ground rules, she said. Everyone will have a chance to share. I understand it may be hard for some of you, and you can say as much or as little as you want while being mindful of our time. I'm going to ask that you speak about your experiences without making value judgments on Victor as a person. And we are still in school, so please be respectful in your language. A few people giggled. We understood. We couldn't just curse Victor out for an hour. One other important rule, Mrs. Cleland continued. Everyone owns their story and their story only. Victor will have a chance to respond and apologize, but we're not going to tell other people's stories, and we're not going to share anything we hear today outside of this room. Understood? Everyone nodded. She turned to Victor. Do you want to say anything before we start? Victor kept his eyes on the floor. Thanks for coming. I should have done this a while ago, but I was scared, I guess. I know I was a bully, and, well, I don't have any excuses, and I know that just saying it doesn't count for much. So I'm also going to start tutoring in math and science on Tuesdays at lunch, to try to do something good, I guess. He pushed a strand of hair from his face. Anyway, we can go ahead now. Kevin raised his hand. Are we supposed to talk about the stuff you did, then you apologize? Is that how this works? Victor nodded. Basically, yeah. Do you want to go first? I guess. Kevin folded his arms over his chest. You called me Captain Curry when I brought samosas for lunch, and you made fun of how my food smelled. You know that's kind of racist, right? Maybe you thought it was just a joke. That's what Colby said when he covered for you. Kevin glared at Colby, who slumped in his seat. But it wasn't funny. It sucked. Victor's eyes dropped. I know. I'm sorry. The worst part is, I let it bother me so much I stopped bringing good lunches to school. Kevin hunched forward. I ate boring sandwiches like some basic white kid, just so you wouldn't make fun of me. No offense to all you white kids. Ezra snickered, and Ty had a sudden coughing fit into his sleeve. I'm really sorry, Kevin, Victor said. I bet your samosas were way better than my basic white guy sandwiches. Yeah, they were, Kevin said, and I shouldn't have let you ruin my lunch. I know better now. Maybe you'll let me try one sometime, Victor said. You have to earn samosa privileges, dude. Kevin sat up straighter. But we'll see. Victor looked around. Would someone else like to go? Matt Garrison raised his hand. You called me Fat Matt. His voice shook. I stopped eating my favorite foods, too. Sometimes I didn't bring lunch at all, and I hated changing for gym. I hid in a stall because you... ... Matt had to stop and swallow hard. Victor turned bone white. I'm sorry, Matt. I was mean and wrong. The other thing was, I felt a churning in my gut, too. I glanced at the other kids who'd been in our gym class, and I was pretty sure we were all thinking the same thing. We were there, too. We knew Matt disappeared into a stall. Colby snickered about it with Victor, but the rest of us pretended we didn't notice. I'd been afraid of Victor. I'd been afraid to speak up. So I hadn't told the teacher or done anything to help Matt, just like he hadn't helped me. Matt was staring at his shoes. Victor cleared his throat. You know, you're a killer artist. I remember those self-portraits we did in class last year, and yours was amazing. Matt looked up. Thanks, he said slowly. I remember that too, I added. You're really talented, Matt. Everyone looked at me. My face caught fire. Sorry, I know we're not supposed to comment. Mrs. Cleland paused for a moment. Maybe a quick round of compliments would be all right to validate people after they share. Your art is great, Matt, Miranda Wong weighed in. And you're a good person, too. I hope you know you don't have to change for anyone else, especially not for tiny people with their own problems. She glared at Victor. Thanks, Matt said. A few other people said nice things, too, and by the end, Matt was smiling. Kevin raised his hand. Wait, hello? We didn't do that for me. Ty placed a hand over his heart. I solemnly swear that Kevin's the best chef in this entire school. It's true, Colby said, especially your cookies. They're the best. Kevin nodded. Thank you. I feel validated now. You may continue. Mrs. Cleland shook her head, biting back a smile. She caught my eye and mouthed, thank you, before looking around the circle. Would someone else like to go? Miranda stood up. I'll go, as in, I'm leaving. I was curious how this would work, but I'm over Victor's whole deal, and honestly, I don't want to help him feel better about himself. She started for the door. Miranda, Mrs. Cleland half rose from her seat. Are you all right? Did you want to talk to Mrs. Barton, or... I'm fine, Mrs. Cleland, really. Miranda smiled. This was helpful. I wasted too much energy last year worrying about Victor and his little buddies. She stared at Colby, who avoided her gaze. But now I know I don't need anything from them, because what they think doesn't matter at all. Miranda walked out with her head held high. Victor was turning a sickly shade of green, and Colby was maybe thinking about digging a tunnel through the floor. Honestly, I kind of enjoyed that. Do you want a break? Mrs. Cleland asked Victor softly. He shook his head. It's okay, he turned to me. Do you want to go, Brian? You probably have the longest list. He attempted a smile that quickly faded. I wasn't smiling back. My heart raced. Ezra lightly touched my shoulder. My brain instantly called up a catalog of terrible things Victor had said to me. Loser, freak, ghost. Do you talk at all anymore? I swear you're going psycho on us. I don't want to give you a list. I'm not sure I want an apology either. I just want to know why. I met Victor's eyes. Why me? What made you decide in the first week of 7th grade that you were going to torture me all year? Victor hesitated. It's going to sound ridiculous, he finally admitted. I'm not expecting a good reason, but I still want to hear it. Yeah, I figured. He picked at his thumbnail. I quit playing hockey right before 7th grade. My dad's obsessed with hockey. He tells this terrible joke. If the Pope and the Stanley Cup were falling off a bridge and he only had time to save one, at least the Pope would go to heaven. He rolled his eyes. My brothers are just as bad. They both think they'll make the NHL, and I was good too, except I hated it, so I quit. Mom stuck up for me, but that didn't help much. My brothers treated me like crap, and Dad kept lecturing me about not being a quitter. Then I sold all my gear online, and when he found out, he was so mad he stopped talking to me. Victor glanced at me. You're wondering what this has to do with you, right? The day before school started, I went out on my scooter to get away from home for a while, and I saw you playing basketball at the park with your dad and your brother. You were all laughing, and I was kind of jealous. Then the next day, I said hi to you in homeroom, and you practically ran away from me. I blinked. Victor, I wasn't being snobby. It was my first day at a new school, and I have major social anxiety. I was overwhelmed. Yeah, I figured that out, too. You were so quiet, it made it easier to pick on you. He rubbed his face. I was just angry. I know that's no excuse. Yeah, it's not. I looked Victor in the eye. I don't have a perfect family, you know. My dad's in jail. Victor's eyes widened. Someone else gasped, and a flash of anxiety coursed through me. The only people in the room who knew about my dad were my friends and Mrs. Cleland. I wasn't ashamed of him, but it also wasn't the kind of thing I wanted to broadcast in junior high. But I needed to say it to Victor. When I punched you, I was stressed out because my family was so messed up that I couldn't even stay at home. I ended up living with Mrs. Cleland for 2 weeks. More murmurs, but I focused on Victor. Still, I felt bad about it, so I said sorry, because having your own problems isn't an excuse to make other people miserable. It doesn't even fix anything, it just turns you into a jerk. Dead silence. Mrs. Cleland was looking at me with misty-eyed concern, but I didn't feel panicky. Saying all that felt good. I know that now, Victor sighed. I guess I always knew it deep down, and I'm sorry. I was definitely a jerk. He glanced at me and looked away. And maybe I was jealous because you got better grades in everything but math. You're so smart, it's disgusting. You are really smart, Matt echoed. And you're super nice, Maddie added. And an excellent baller, Spicy B, Ty chimed in. Ezra nudged me with his elbow. You can even beat Kevin in a hot wing eating contest. That contest was rigged, Kevin protested. But you are the coolest white dude I know, B. Once again, no offense to other white people in the room. You are a little bit cool. Victor gave me a tiny smile. I wish I realized that earlier. After being invisible for so long, it still felt weird when people complimented me, and it was even weirder coming from Victor. I watched him as another kid went, and I thought of my favorite scene in The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. This rotten kid named Eustace Scrubb had turned into a dragon, and to become a boy again, he had to peel off all his scales, layer by layer. It was painful, like ripping scabs from his whole body, but it felt good at the same time. When it was finally over, he was a changed kid, braver and kinder and not so selfish. Watching Victor say, "I'm sorry," over and over was like watching him shed layers of dragon skin. Eventually, he turned to Alicia. Your turn. Her eyes narrowed. You bet it's my turn. Chapter 34, Bohemian Rhapsody, Part 3, Ezra. You used me, Alicia glared at Victor. You made me think you liked me, then you just disappeared. No calls, no texts, nothing all summer. Like I didn't exist anymore. Her voice shook. I spent so long trying to figure out what I did wrong. Then I realized it wasn't me, it was you, 'cause you're the worst. Mrs. Cleland leaned forward like she was about to correct Alicia for breaking the no personal attacks rule, but Victor spoke first. You're right, it wasn't you. You're pretty and funny and amusing, and I messed up. He paused for a long time. I could tell he was still afraid to say more. The last half hour had been hard for him, and honestly, it had been tough to watch. Victor used to be awful. He had a supervillain's ability to uncover what would make people feel the worst about themselves. Then he'd use it against them. It was ugly, and it made me wonder how I could have feelings for someone who'd act like that. But the amazing thing was, he had the opposite ability too. He noticed people's strengths. Every time he gave the perfect compliment to someone he used to torment, the air in the room grew lighter, and something was changing in him. I could see it. Victor, I said, it's okay. He met my eyes before he looked back at the floor and started talking. I had a hard summer. I was already feeling bad about stuff at school and Ty's party, and then my parents split up. Alicia drew in a breath. Oh. Victor shrugged. I knew it was for the best, and I knew it wasn't really about me. Mom and Dad fought over everything, not just me and hockey. Mom and I spent the summer at my grandparents' place in New Brunswick, and I was glad to be away from Dad and my brothers. But once we got there, and I didn't have much to do, everything hit me. He glanced at Alicia. I know I should have called or texted. I thought about it every day, but it was like I got stuck in quicksand. I spent a lot of time in bed. It sounds like you were depressed, Brian said. Victor exhaled. Maybe. Everything seemed pointless. Colby was the only person I kept in touch with. He joked around with me, and that helped. Colby shook his head. I didn't even know how bad it was, bro. Not until... The alien abduction? That was everyone's favorite rumor, right? Victor looked around. A few people giggled nervously. His eyes settled on me again. The truth is pretty embarrassing. I went walking in the woods behind my grandparents' place, and when I found a river, I went swimming. The current was stronger than I thought, and I drifted too far to swim back. The brush was so thick along the riverbank that I couldn't just follow the shore back either, and I got caught in a thunderstorm. One minute it was sunny, then bam. So I tried to find shelter and I got turned around. He shook his head. I felt like such a clueless city noob. How long were you out there? Ty asked. Most of the night. Victor squeezed his fists like he was trying to keep himself under control. They called in a search team and divers after my grandfather found my clothes by the river. Everyone assumed the worst. Kevin sat up. They found your clothes? I went swimming, remember, and I was alone, so... Victor exhaled. Just so you know, spending the night in the woods and nothing but your underwear is the worst. It's cold, mosquitoes treat you like a walking taco, and even when you get rescued, you want to die of embarrassment. I give it 0 stars. Maddie let out one shocked, ha! But every guy in the room cringed. That sounded awful. Being in your underwear on stage at a school assembly would be almost as bad, but it would be over quicker and it wouldn't be as scary or itchy. Matt gulped. That must have been horrible. Yeah, Victor said. I spent a day in the hospital, and my mom figured that disappearing in the woods was a cry for help or something, so she took me to a therapist when we got home. That turned out to be good, though. Dr. Wrights helped me a lot. Therapy's great, right? Brian said. His face had changed, too. The anger was gone. Yeah, Victor turned to Alicia. I was too embarrassed to tell you any of that, and by the time I came here back here in November, it was too late to make things right. I'm really sorry. A tear slipped down Alicia's cheek. Victor, I'm sorry. I had no idea what you were going through. Victor shook his head. I'll always be sorry I messed things up, but I hope we can be friends someday. Maybe, Alicia sighed. You like some other girl now, don't you? That's who you were apologizing to in the announcements? Not exactly. I did this because I needed to do it. Victor swallowed hard. But, I actually fell for this amazing guy. He's funny and talented and really kind. He's just himself. He makes me want to be better, and I'm just sorry I hurt him. Victor's voice went shaky. Your turn, Ezra. I knew everyone was looking at me, and I didn't care. I was focused on Victor. His knee bounced as he clenched his hands together, and it made me think there was something he was still holding back. But maybe he wasn't ready to say it here, and that was okay. I'm not mad. I forgive you. I smiled at him. I'm so glad you did this. Relief flooded his face, and he smiled back. Me too. A silence fell over the room. Mrs. Cleland looked around. Wow, all of you, thank you. I'm so proud of you. She dabbed at her eye with a tissue. We have a few minutes before the bell rings. Victor, do you want to say anything before I close us off? Wait, Brian interrupted. Before you do that, I'm sorry I yelled at you earlier, Victor. Ezra's been telling me that you're trying to change, and I didn't totally believe it. Maybe I didn't want to believe it because it was easier to keep thinking of you as the villain, but that's not fair, and I'm sorry. Victor blinked. For the first time, he looked lost, like he had no idea what to do with Brian's apology. Me too, Matt added. When there were a bunch of rumors going around, I talked a lot of trash about you. Now that I know the whole story, I feel bad about it. Sorry. Kevin scratched his head. Yeah, same. The idea that you'd been sucked into the Upside Down was just too good to resist. I'm sorry. I get it, Victor said. No hard feelings. Victor, Mrs. Cleland paused. I owe you an apology, too. His eyes went wide. You're very smart, and I believe I've treated you fairly in the classroom, but I also noticed your attitude, and I've been teaching long enough that I wasn't optimistic you would change. Mrs. Cleland drew a shuddery breath. I'm sorry for that, but I'm glad you've proven me wrong. Victor was blinking hard. Mrs. Cleland kept going. You've come a long way this year. You've made mistakes, and you'll probably make more, because we all do. But you're trying. I've met your father, and I taught your brothers, and, well, I know how hard it is to break the cycle in a toxic environment. But what you did today was a difficult and beautiful thing, and I am so, so proud of you. Mrs. Cleland was teary, Alicia and Maddie were too. Heck, so was I. Victor squeezed his fists and his face turned pink. Thanks, Mrs. Cleland and everyone, and I have to go to the bathroom. With a panicked look, he raced for the door. Victor, Mrs. Cleland called, but he kept going. I hurried after him. He turned in the opposite direction of the bathroom, and I knew instantly where he was headed. I followed him into the band room. It was empty today, and Victor sat at the piano bench with his head in his hands. Ezra, I need a minute, he said in a strained voice. I sat and put an arm around him. He tensed up first, but I didn't move, and his shoulders loosened. Slowly, he uncovered his face. That was really brave, I told him. Are you okay? I think so, he exhaled. It was hard, but you were right. I needed to face it. A few strands of hair had fallen into his face, and I brushed them back. He was blinking a lot, and his breathing was ragged. My heart sped up. I touched his cheek. He swallowed. Are we going to, Yes, I said, and I kissed him. It was way better than Bohemian Rhapsody. If I ever get to play a concert in an arena full of screaming fans, I hope it would feel as good as my first kiss with Victor. He wrapped his arms around me, and I pulled him closer. Oh! I opened my eyes. Mrs. Cleland was standing by the door with Brian, Colby, Kevin, and Ty. She cleared her throat. I wanted to make sure Victor was okay. Looks like they're both okay, Kevin cracked, and Colby snorted. Victor and I let each other go. My cheeks were burning, but I tried to play it cool as I straightened my glasses. Yeah, we're good, I said, as casually as I could manage. It sunk in that I'd just kissed a guy in school, in front of my friends, and they were all grinning at me, even Colby. I took Victor's hand, and he burst into tears. I didn't even think before I pulled him into a hug. He practically fell into me, like he could barely hold himself up. In a second, Brian crossed the room to join us. The others followed, and soon we were one big pile, holding on to each other. So, I said, we should probably talk about the woods. Victor's nose wrinkled. Do we have to? I've already had a month's worth of feelings today. Feelings are awful. I knew he was joking, but I didn't let him off the hook. If you're going to be my boyfriend and the keyboard player in my band, this is part of the deal. Victor tilted his head. We're starting a band? We'll talk about that later. This comes first. He sighed. Fine. We were in my basement after school. Victor was sprawled on the couch next to me like he owned the place, even though it was only his third time in my house. It was cute enough that I was tempted to skip straight to kissing, but we needed to talk. Also, Brian and Colby were here, so skipping straight to kissing would be rude. Having the four of us together felt a little awkward, but it was important, and it wasn't going as badly as I feared. After everything at lunch, Brian was more relaxed around Victor and Colby. He was lying on his belly on the floor, looking at his phone. Colby was quieter than usual, parked in a beanbag chair in the corner. Victor bit into a carrot stick with a sharp crack. So, what do you want to know about the worst night of my life? I had a dozen questions, but Brian glanced up and cut right to it. When you went into the woods, did you want to come out? Victor was quiet for long enough that my stomach sank. I'm not sure, he finally said. I cleared my throat. What does that mean? Victor sat up. It means I felt so bad that I didn't care what happened anymore. I wasn't trying to get lost, but I wasn't trying not to either. I swallowed hard. It makes me sad to think of you out there, hopeless and cold and alone. Me too, Colby said. Huh. Colby admitting he has feelings is a new development. I get it, though. Brian propped up onto his elbows. I had some bad nights, too, but on my worst one, Ezra, Kevin, and Ty showed up in a snowstorm and helped me through it. I remembered how useless I'd felt when I left Brian's house that night, but he'd talked to us, so I guess it had helped. And I talked to Mom that night. Now that I look back, that had helped me, too. Something had changed between Mom and me. Victor shifted to lie back, with his feet dangling over the end of the couch and his head resting on my lap. He took my hand and held it against his chest with his hand on top of mine. He looked up, sort of sideways, and it was like he was letting me see him from a new angle. No hiding, no pretending, just Victor. The thing is, Once I realized I was lost, I didn't want to be lost anymore, he said. Brian nodded. You had to know you were a dragon before you could stop being a dragon. Colby wrinkled his nose. What does that even mean? No, I get it, Victor said. You're so smart, Brian. You don't have to be super nice to me forever, Brian replied. Just for 2 more weeks, then I'll officially forgive you. Victor laughed, and my hand bounced against his chest. Deal. You know, you're kind of funny now that you talk more, Colby said to Brian. He shot me a guilty look. Ezra tried to tell me that a while ago. Sorry I messed up so bad. You don't have to apologize forever either, I told him. You can have the same 2-week deal. Oh, okay. I'm just messing with you, Colby. Hey, what happened to Jackson after that party? Colby grinned. He's grounded for the rest of the school year. Mom and Dad lit him up. I've never seen them so mad. Usually they believe Jackson over me, but not this time. It helped that your mom got involved, Ezra. He tucked his hands behind his head. It's nice not being the disappointing son for once. As Colby told his story in typical Colby style, for a second I wondered if we'd ever get back to how we used to be. But the thought passed because I didn't really want that. I had good memories from when we were younger, but I realize now that I let Colby get away with things that weren't okay. It made myself smaller for the sake of our friendship, but real friendships help you grow, not shrink. Maybe we'd both grow enough that we could start over, but we didn't have to figure that out today. He was here now, and so was my best friend who helped me be brave enough to be myself. And so was the boy who liked me enough to place his warm, beating heart in my hand. That was enough to make today a good day.